955 years ago today, as this video goes out, took place in our English history one of the most important and most well-known battles on English soil. 1066, on the 14th of October, saw the defeat of the last of the English kings, the Anglo-Saxon kings, and the beginning of the Norman invasion. In my quest for England and in my vlogs, I want to tell the story of the English history. I made a video about this the other day, talking about using armatures and little puppets and models and things. I'm not quite sure that's really the way to go. I feel it's absolutely vital to understand the lineage history of this nation, but I don't want to do this as a series of lectures. I want to learn with you and share what I find out really about the English history as I do my my long format, these videos, and just pepper them with bits of the history as we go along. And the Norman invasion for me is an interesting place to start because so much changed. And yet, so much didn't change, because the fabric from the Anglo-Saxon period, almost the pencil drawing to the main drawing, was already there. That's what I find really interesting. I'm just charging up my batteries for my drone. I hadn't taken the drone out for a while. I'd like to take that out. I'd love to go to Hastings, or to Battle, where the Battle of Hastings allegedly took place. There are disputes about where it took place. I guess there'll always be these arguments. But I'm going to follow the accepted route for now. But it would be lovely to go there and take the drone up, fly it round, talk about. I don't know whether one would get permission or whether you needed permission if one was high enough, but it's just getting to Hastings at the moment on the A27 is an absolute nightmare because of the roadworks and things, especially in rush hour or beginning and ending of the day. But who knows, I may get there. So it may be that I'm going to try and tell the story of this incredible nation in these vlogs, but wherever I am, if I'm walking on the downs, or I'm down at the seafront, or I'm out with the lovely Julia, or wherever, I might just pepper in the story rather than do lectures, as I said. The thing that most people remember about 1066 is that King Harold Godwinson, sorry about the kettle sound, just boiling up, nice cup of coffee. I'm still suffering from a bit of, I've got to get this right, not norovirus. Is it norovirus? Norovirus. Still suffering with a bit of that. Trying to get myself better. I'm going to try some coffee. I haven't been taking caffeine for a while, so I'm going to just have a little bit. Yeah, the thing that most people remember, of course, is that Harold, King Harold, our last Anglo-Saxon king, had an arrow in his eye, and of course that could have been complete and utter fabrication. It's possible that actually after the Battle of Hastings, that Harold, who had been singled out by some dedicated Normans sent by William the Conqueror, or he wasn't quite the conqueror at that point, but he was the Duke of Normandy, they sourced him out, they attacked him, killed him. What is it when they stick the knife into his... disemboweled him, cut off his head, and possibly, and this is a little bit delicate, cut his tackle off. That's apparently full castration is what they would do to the nobles, apparently. So it's possible that that happened, but although we have the Bayeux tapestry and it shows, you know, we think the arrow in Harold's eye, the thing about the Bayeux tapestry is it was changed many times over history, 955 years. It wasn't just untouched from the day it was done, and of course it's a tapestry, not a photograph of the event, and it's a storytelling, and of course it is propaganda from Duke William's side of the story, even if I think they believe that we did it over here at Canterbury. I may have got that wrong, and then it was taken back to Bayeux. But either way, there's lots of different ways in which Harold could have died. But one thing that we do know is he did perish on the battlefield. So, whilst I've done a bit of research on this, I need to get it out of my head and see if I can tell you about it and see, you know, if it makes any sense, and also if it's of any interest, because I'm clearly interested to know if you're going to follow this. And also, you have a role to play in this, because if I get this all wrong, you can correct me, which will be great. I don't mind being corrected. And you might have extra things to add to the picture, and you know, so in other words, you're part of this ongoing quest for England as well. Cheers. So we just need to go back to Edward the Confessor, who was pretty much, well, there's no pretty much about it, he was the last Anglo-Saxon king of England, and he died on the 5th of January 1066. In fact, 1066 had 3 kings, as we will discover in this. It's quite an unusual event to happen, 3 kings in such a short space of time. He had no children, Edward the Confessor, so who was going to succeed him? That was the big problem, and there were really only a few contenders. Firstly, prior to Edward the Confessor, we'd been ruled by Danish kings, such as King Canute. He'd come over and invaded and was king for a while, as we know. One of the legends at Bosham in Sussex, although there are other places also claimed this for their victory, is where King Canute famously told the water, or he said that, I think it was that he told his entourage and his supporters and what have you that he wasn't as powerful as they thought he was. They thought he could command the sea, and he said, no, I can't look, I will tell the sea to go away, and it still lapped up around his feet, something like that. Anyway, there was the possibility of a Danish connection, not King Canute, he'd died since. So there was this Harald Hardrada, who was the king of Norway. He could possibly have laid claim to the English throne. There was a nephew of, a great nephew of Edward the Confessor. However, although he had royal blood, technically, he was a teenager. He had been born in exile. He had no land. And over here, nobody knew who the hell he was. He had no following. So he would have been very weak, and it would have been chaotic. So Edward the Confessor didn't want that. There was, in fact, one other person who, although had no royal blood, was in fact Edward the Confessor's brother-in-law, Harold Godwinson. He was a very powerful man in England, and he was a great warrior. And so it seemed likely that he was going to be the best positioned person, if I can put it like that, to become king. And so that's what Edward the Confessor said he would like. And when he died on the 5th of January, Harold was duly crowned and anointed in Westminster. Because there was one other person who felt that he had been promised this right and he was over in Norway. He was over in Normandy, and he was getting very frustrated. We'll get on to the old Duke of Normandy a little bit later on, but I wanted to show you this. The lovely Anne Eastwood popped round over the weekend before this norovirus attacked me, and actually I hadn't heard from Anne. I must get back in touch with her and make sure she's okay. And she very kindly volunteered to do something in my garden, which was very nice. When I say do something, thank you. When I say do something, I mean tidy up my front garden, which is a mess. I'll show you a picture of it so you can have a look. I should have done a before and afterwards so that you could have seen what a mess it was before. I was actually quite embarrassed. My hollyhocks had leant over and were just growing out into the pavement, which was a bit of a nightmare. Anyway, she very kindly did that, and it was so appreciative. It's absolutely marvellous job, and it's going to be a ray of colour next year, especially from the spring onwards. She very kindly said, would I like this? She'd bought this and said, would I like it for the van? Little first aid kit. And I said, oh, that's very generous of you. And inside, it's got everything that you would possibly need. Bandages, plasters, and first aid bits and bobs. So how brilliant is that? That's really kind. And she also said, the other thing it's worth thinking about is a fire extinguisher. I thought, yes, probably need to get a little portable fire extinguisher. Not quite sure where you get them from, but I'll soon find out. But no, thanks very much, Anne. Very much appreciate that. I've got to find a suitable place in the van for it, but I think for the moment it can go up next to my books. It's later the same day. Yes, I've changed my jumper. It's been a long day. I've been reading stuff. I've been making notes. I have been looking at websites, reading more stuff, and trying to work out how to tell this rather complex story. I mean, you know, we know how the story runs, don't we? There's William the Conqueror, who I was trying to find why. Why does William the Conqueror want to invade and take over England? And because I'd read about it in the books, and yeah, okay, I understand that. How do I convey that? How do I tell you guys what it is? And it's complicated. It's very complicated because the Normans came from the Vikings, and the Vikings settled in Normandy. But some of the Vikings, the Danish, I mean, they became kings in England. So you had King Canute, who was a king in England. And then there's the Anglo-Saxons, like Ethelstan the Unready. And by the way, the Unready doesn't mean that he was unready. It just means that he was ill-advised. And so he was married to a woman called Emma, who was the sister of Robert of Normandy, but there was a Richard of Normandy, who I think was the father. I'm having a break. I've come back to Stenning Bowl today to fly the drone. It was such a lovely day, and you know, when Julia and I came here the other day when we were recovering from this, and I feel much better, by the way, of the norovirus. I think I've managed to get that about right now. We just said when we got back we should have flown the drone. It was so beautiful, the landscape was so lovely. So I've been flying it this morning, and you'll see the pictures, of course. And I'm slowly getting the hang of it. Am I getting the hang of telling the history? I just want to finish off this video with the events that led up to the battle, and then we can deal with the rest of the English history after that. So let me just put this away. Here we go. Here's a lovely little spot. I just wanted to sit down, find a little spot to finish off this history, and actually looking at the landscape really brings it home how relevant I think the Norman invasion and how important this country is. I mean, it is just beautiful. So I would try and make this brief, and I would try and not get complicated or confusing myself with too much in the history of this. So, William the Conqueror, he wasn't William the Conqueror because he hadn't conquered at that point. He had a claim to the throne. One of the things was that Harold apparently had given his oath when he had been shipwrecked going over to Normandy on behalf of Edward I, I guess in a bit of a peacekeeping, sort of keeping up with the Joneses mission type thing. He'd been shipwrecked, handed over to William, the Duke William of Normandy, and William had said, look, you know, when Edward dies, I've got a claim to the throne. You're not going to stand in the way, are you? And Harold apparently said, no, I won't. Apparently he did this on some relics, and it's on the Bayeux tapestry and all of that. Well, you do wonder why Harold, of course, who was the most powerful man in England, why he would want to give away his potential kingship, which is ludicrous, really. And he probably just thought, well, you know, at some point I'll have to face up to William, but I'll have an army, we'll be fine, we'll be on our own territory, we can repel the invaders. Trouble was, when that came to it, of course, and Edward died and Harold became king, his brother Toxtig, I think that's his name, had teamed up with the Danish king, and they had invaded because they thought they had a claim to the throne over in Northumbria, and had taken over York. Well, that meant that Harold had to march his men, as we know, all the way up to York and fight the battle at Stamford Bridge. Not a Chelsea shirt in sight, I noticed. But he won that. He killed his brother, who he'd fallen out with. He killed the king of Denmark or Norway, or whichever one it was, doesn't matter. And at that point, William had managed to get across across the channel, and had taken root at Pevensey, as the traditional story is. Other people say it was somewhere else. And he laid the foundations ready for his battle to invade. Of course, Harold then had to march all the way down, went to London, picked up some extra supporters. There were some other Anglo-Saxons who were supposed to be coming to join them, Edwin and somebody else, Morcar, I think it was, may have got that wrong. They never turned up. And so on the 14th of October 1066, there they are on the top of Senlac Hill, or Sand Lake Hill, or maybe it was in Crowhurst, who knows, people have different opinions. And the battle took place. The battle was long and hard, over 6 hours, and eventually the Normans overpowered the tired English, the Anglo-Saxons, and Harold died as we looked at it. And that's really it. Now, you could go into far, far more detail. I don't want to. I want to just start with the next episode, thinking about what did William do? How did he keep on top of the English? And how did Norman influence change the society that was here? Did it change? Were we completely subjugated? Or what happened after that? And then look at the future kings and queens and various things. I want to keep it simple, and I want to take you to where I can as I do it. So, that's that. This is such a beautiful land. It's so gorgeous. We've got to protect it, and knowing the story is part of that protection. If you've enjoyed my video, don't forget to follow, like and subscribe. I'll be doing the frivolous videos, I'll be doing the trip videos, I'll be doing the Sussex border exploration videos and the history. Become a patron, support what I do, and I will continue to make these. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Till next time, bye bye.